is new under the sun.
So first of all, thank you very much, Alberto, and for the people that kindly invited me to be here. Thank you to all the speakers and all the people here in this room, without which this event wouldn't be the success that it is. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about Luxembourg. I think there's a lot you can read up on kind of Germany and the UK and other places, but Luxembourg is kind of a startup ecosystem that is emerging out of the shadows and into the light, as a recent article in the New York Times actually wrote about Luxembourg. We tend to be rather shy people. We tend to not brag about what we do, but when you actually look about what's going on in Luxembourg, it's quite astonishing, actually. So now the government in Luxembourg is very clear, and I think Peter, what you said is actually topical. We're not trying to be the next Silicon Valley. There's no reason to be that, but what we can be is the best Luxembourg that we can be. And how can we be the best Luxembourg that we can be? Well, that is to focus on things that we actually know how to do well, to focus on those core industries present in Luxembourg and to try to develop those and to try to build spin-offs of that. Now, technology in Luxembourg is actually nothing new. In the 1920s and 1930s, RTL Radio was founded in Luxembourg. Then in the 50s and 60s, we had RTL Television, today one of the largest media companies in Europe, born in Luxembourg. In the 80s and 90s, we actually had SAS Astra, today the largest satellite system in the world, being born out of Luxembourg. And today we're actually seeing many, many large tech companies actually headquartering in Luxembourg, from the Amazons of this world to the eBays, to the Skypes, to the PayPals, to the iTunes. A lot of them are there. Why Luxembourg? I think primarily because of the governance and the trust that people have in the local government. We have a lot of advantages in Luxembourg, and we realize that rather than trying to become kind of a place where the next big consumer app is going to be built, we want to build platforms. If there's anything that I learned from being out in Silicon Valley, is that actually what's really valuable as a business is not a gimmick, but it's actually a core platform. When you look at Google and Facebook, sure, they have a lot of services built on top of them, but only because they are a platform. And so what are the platforms that are of interest to Luxembourg? Well, data centers are a huge gig. They kind of arose out of the need to support our financial, infrastructure in Luxembourg. Internet connectivity is through the roof. We are today connected with, the largest I6 out there, and actually pride ourselves on having some of the best fiber optic network, I think, in the world, if not certainly in Europe. To the tune that we now have an infrastructure that actually allows a lot of deals to happen and a lot of companies to be created. In particular, super strong focus on e-commerce. I mean, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, eBay, Kobo, Rakuten, all of there. And Peter, you know very well that Luxembourg is also a center of excellence for gaming companies. I mean, we have Alawar, BigPoint, Big Fish, Dockler, OnLive, Valve, Mayasoft, maybe one day Rovio as well, all setting up shop there. We have communication companies, Skype, Join, Tango, Roamsys, data archiving and management, Mega, the latest project by our common friend who now lives in New Zealand, is coming to Luxembourg as well, and of course financial services. And we did see a couple of exits on the financial services side, notably in the transaction and the payment space. Flashies just got sold to a large Dublin-based company. And so this is what we do. Now, a lot of people can kind of say, oh, well, companies come to Luxembourg because, you have a great tax system and that's why they're there. I think that partly this has been the case when we look back at the 90s and the early 2000s.
There's nothing wrong with having a great tax system.
Well, I'll get to that. Thank you for teeing me up. But I think that those companies that came to Luxembourg, actually, when they came to Luxembourg, realized that, hey, we can actually work here. There's actually skilled workforce. The contacts and the channels to government are very short. There is actually 60% of Europe's GDP within an hour flight from Luxembourg, and of course the sound financial system. On the small tax issue there, we do actually pay tax in Luxembourg. Surprise, surprise. So the corporate tax rate for all you guys, it's 21% in Luxembourg. It's 27% in Ireland. But unfortunately,
in Finland.
And in Finland, plug
20.
Plug Finland in there. But in Belgium it's 57%, and it can go up to 66% in places such as France. I think we also have great IP regime, 80% tax exemption on net income derived from qualifying IP. I think that really helped a lot. We have zero withholding tax on royalties. So this means that a lot of founders actually starting out in Luxembourg get to keep the fruit of their labor, and so on and so forth. So project funding, every country has it. I think what is recent in Luxembourg is that we're actually starting to develop also a very competent workforce. Luxembourg had always shied away from building a university, and it was kind of built on the premise that we were a very small country, and if we had kind of a university, you know, people would go to the university, stay in Luxembourg, and our strength has always been that people traveled outside of Luxembourg and to places such as Brussels or London or Paris to get their education. The government has now actually decided to build a university, and we're positioning the university as a center of excellence for technology. 6,000 students there now, going to 10, 12,000 students over the coming 2 to 3 years. So I think that's definitely going to create additional oomph and additional, you know, empathos in the country. And, you know, major success stories, coming out of Luxembourg. My Science Network today, one of the largest, you know, kind of Google searches for scientific publications. You know, All Square, probably the largest social network for golfers coming out of Luxembourg. Mix VoIP, competing, if not, you know, directly with Skype, certainly with others in the voice over IP play. So it's happening, and I think it's a testimony that, you know, recently the New York Times picked us up to saying things are going on.